Oh, hang on, that's not right, is it? Let's remove that. That was a little bit too early. Just realised I've got some dinner left stuck in the teeth. Good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? I'm just going to hide my. I got something stuck in my teeth. I've just seen on the camera. Excuse me. How are we all doing today? Hope you are well. I didn't start that right. Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, the 20th of July, 2025. We've had rain this weekend. I'm sure many of us are very, very pleased to have received some. I am absolutely shattered at the moment as well, I've got to say. Anyway, we are here tonight. We're going to be talking about irrigation methods. And this is something that I think we need to talk a bit more about. It's something that quite often gets ignored. And I mean that because irrigation, we just think, oh, it's just throwing water around. There's techniques, there's things that we can do to make it better. But we'll get into that in just a moment. First of all, let's see if anybody is actually out there. Over on Instagram, Debbie Moody 827 has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Adrian is here saying, hello, Richard. No, good evening to you. Kate is there. Good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you have more rain than me. Water but's still only 1/3 full. I'll get into that in a moment, actually. Rob's Allotment Garden, good evening all on this wet Sunday. Good evening to you. Scott is there. Good evening all. Good evening to you. Allotted Chef, aka Nathan, is there. Evening all. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Rob says, still can't get my head around these crown things. I can't see them here, so I don't know what to do. I'm not a fan of these crown things, I have to admit. I think it creates unneeded rivalry. Hargrave Gas, evening all. Sorry, I think that was sorry I missed last week. Looking forward to catching up. Not a problem, not a problem. Hi, Rob. Hi, hey up, Richard. Hello to you. You can turn, yeah. Digwell is there. Don't panic, Brian. I'm here. Good evening to Digwell. He is there. Although he hasn't said hello to me yet. I might say hello to everyone else, though. Anna Jones, good evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. What have we got? You need to. What have we got? And Nicola is there. Evening, everyone. Nice. We had more rain. The temperature has dropped. Yes, it is nice that it has rained because the temperature has dropped. The air is fresher. It feels pleasant to be around. More importantly, irrigation. The topic for tonight. The topic for tonight is irrigation, and rain is a big part of that. I do think, and I say this time and time again, rain is such an important water resource. I have 16 water butts in my garden. At the moment, only one of them is now connected to a downpipe due to things going on in my garden, going on in my house. But we'll discuss that a little bit later on. But it is nice to get a bit of rain. But irrigation is what we want to talk about tonight. And of course, rain has been a big part of irrigation because when it rains, we don't really need to water our garden, or do we? This is always a question that I get told or asked quite often. Because we've had rain, do we need to water our gardens? And it does depend. The thing is, we could have rain, but it doesn't really soak into the ground. It doesn't get to the roots of the plants. And that is where rain needs to get. We need to get the roots down low to really, or the water down low to the roots of our plants. So it does depend how much rain you have. Now, one of the methods that I like to use on seeing whether we need to water or not is simply sticking my finger into the ground to feel if it is damp. Same as my pots, same as everything else. If I can feel a bit of moisture as we get below the surface, I know we are okay. But what do you do? How do you know when you need to irrigate your ground? My first question to you, how do you know when you need to apply irrigation? Turbo Stream says we had a decent amount of rain this weekend, plus a thunderstorm not long ago, and it's raining again. It's weird weather at the moment. But we had rain overnight on Friday, beautiful sunshine on Friday, rain overnight Friday. Yesterday, rain in the morning, sunshine in the evening, rain overnight, sunshine during the day. So it's quite nice, quite nice. As far as I'm aware, we haven't had any thunderstorms here, but we did have a warning that a thunderstorm was coming, but we could have another thunderstorm tonight. Nicholas says her crown slipped a long time ago. You earn points for every comment. The more you comment, the more points. The top 3 get a crown. There we go. If you need to know how it works. Amanda is there. Evening all. So nice to catch you live today. I've been having to catch up after the show a lot recently. Hope you are all well. Amanda, lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Rob says still need to water the greenhouses. You do, actually. That's a good point. You do still need to water the greenhouses even when it rains. So, yeah, it's a very good point. That's actually a very good point. Something we might get into as well. Rebecca says, evening all. Hope everyone's had a great gardening week. Indeed, indeed. It has been a lovely gardening week. I'm absolutely shattered at the moment, though. Kate says, the rain has been wonderful at the Welder Garden Open Day and not worried about it, chucked it down. I just wanted to know about their composting. Interesting, interesting. What did you learn about their composting? Nicholas says it's rained for a few days, raining now as we chat. And look out, we got beautiful sunshine. Turbo Extreme says the soil's still dry under the surface of his pot. So there you go. This is one of the things that I do want to say is that you do need to find out, or I'm trying to do 1,000,001 things here. You do need to find out whether you need to water. Now, I think one of the most common methods of irrigation is the hose pipe. Now, this is something, I do have a hose pipe, clearly. I don't always use it. It's something that I have in my garden. I don't use it that often, or certainly not for irrigation that much. It's there for emergencies or when there's times that I need a hose pipe. So, but that's probably one of the most common things that we have a hose pipe for, attached to the mains, which again isn't my preferred way of doing things. Let's bring up the comments. I prefer to use rainwater for where I can. And hose pipe bans are a common thing at the moment. I've heard there's lots of places that are having hose pipe bans. Interestingly, we discussed this last week, actually. Interestingly, the BBC says that we can still water crops even in the garden or an allotment with a hose pipe, but it's preferred not to. So there's a lot of debate whether it is actually whether you can use a hose pipe in a hose pipe ban. But irrigation, I'll tell you what, put your hands up. How many of you use a hose pipe? And I'm not going to say regularly. I just use a hose pipe every now and then. In fact, put your hands up. Put your hands up. Hose pipe is nice and easy, isn't it? It's quick. You just simply turn the tap on and you run around with the hose pipe, and it's pretty quick. You don't, no to-ing and throwing. Easy, simple. One of my best advices when it comes to hose pipe is to get yourself some of these quick hose connectors. I love these. These are a great way to attach to a hose pipe. What makes these so different is this bit. You put your hose pipe in there, as you can see, that's the connector. You slide that piece onto the hose pipe, then you close that down and you would tie that on. These things hardly ever come off. These are great. One of the things that always annoyed me about hose pipes is that they do have a tendency to pop off right when you're using them, something like that. These things, these quick hose, do not come off. Brilliant piece of kit. Brilliant piece of kit. I cannot sing their praises enough because I really, really like them. So let's find out what everybody is saying about a hose pipe. Where were we? Turbo Stream says, for irrigation, I just use watering cans, no hose pipes allowed on the allotment. That's actually a very good point, because on my allotment, we don't have taps to attach hose pipes to. We've got troughs. There probably is ways that we could use a hose pipe using a water pump, something that I'm using a lot more of. We'll get into that in a moment. But for most of us on an allotment, a watering cans is all we can use. Rob says, problem on our site, if someone is using a hose pipe, nobody else can water. That's a very good problem. This is what we want to find out a bit more about, what is actually possible. Turbo Extreme says, I've been spot watering each plant this summer. So what do you mean by spot watering? Let's go, give us a bit more detail about that, please, TurboStream. Scott says, I use a hose connected to a pump that's connected to my water tanks to water. And that's actually a very good way. As I said, something I've got now is this Ryobi battery-powered water pump. And I'm finding that a really good way. At the moment, I'm pumping water with it more than anything. But it's nice and, well, it's simple. We just simply put a battery, put it into the water pump, attach a hose, and off I go. And I can use that to water the entire garden in the future, should I need to. Stuart Jackson has raised his hand to say he uses a hosepipe. Anna Jones has also raised their hands to say they use a hosepipe. Hargrave Gas has raised both hands to say they use a hosepipe. Digwell has raised his hand. It's all I have apart from a watering can. Is it all you have? I'll come into that in a moment. Kate says they do biodynamic and some very old school methods. They get some components like dandelions and calendula, etc., and pot it in the ground in either cow's stomach or sheep's head. Never heard of that. Interesting. That was composting she mentioned a little bit earlier. Nicholas says, I like dip tanks too with my IBC tanks at top of hill gravity fed hose pipe irrigation. So again, using tanks as opposed to mains. I like this. I do like this. TurboStream says, I don't use a hose pipe at home as I'm now on a meter. Yep, I'm on a meter, so I do tend to use, or tend not to use mains. Robert's got his hand up. Aranda has got her hand up. And Digra says, I prefer flexi hose to rigid ones, so no need for joiners. This is actually so you can attach it onto a spray or onto the tap. That's what it's for. This that sort of attachment. I'm trying to think if I got anything that I could do that with. In fact, I have. So quick. There we go. That's perfect. This would go onto your tap, and that clocks onto that. That's what that's for. Perfect. That's why I like quick hose, because they are good. Hargrave Gas. I use a hose pipe mainly for my hanging baskets, which dry out really quickly. They do. And there's something that I do want to talk about, because hanging baskets or pots that we sort of talked about last week, but hanging baskets particularly, they dry out really, really quickly. And I would say hanging baskets could, in middle of summer, 2-3 times a day need watering. Kate says, I need the hose for my health issues. I can't carry too much, sadly. One of the reasons I gave up the allotment. I'm very sorry to hear that, of course. But yeah, I sit here saying it's not worth using a hose, but I'm healthy, and I forget sometimes that not everybody is as maneuverable as I am, and I'm probably not as maneuverable as some other people. So yeah, hose have a place. Stuart says, I fill my watering cans up each night, then try to use them the next day. No ban for me yet. Talking about the hosepipe bans. None here either, but it could happen. Amanda says, I do use a hose, but have a few water butts dotted around my plot. So mostly use it to fill them up, then watering can on the plot. So yeah, again, hoses, not necessarily for watering, but for filling things up. TurboStream says, spot water means a glug of water at the base of each plant. So you're just watering the plant in question. There we go. That's spot watering. Nice and efficient. Nicola's the Bosch battery pump, and TurboStream says, I don't even use a hose pipe to wash my car. No, me neither. I use rainwater to wash my car as well, believe it or not. Just because it's free. At home, the garden got watered with grey water. Actually, that's something we have. Grey water, black water. That's something we could talk about as well, actually. Digwa says, that's what I meant. No need for them to join onto a tap or nozzle. That's what I meant. Oh, what you meant these things. Yeah. Oh, of course. I was trying to work out what you meant by flexi hose. You're talking about those ones that expand when there's water pressure going through. Is that what you mean? Tell me more. Nicholas says, I have 6 IBC tanks, got 4 more to connect, plus 8 standard plus dip tanks. That's a lot. That's 6,000 litres of water plus another 10,000 litres of water. That's a lot of water. a lot of land at the same time. Rob says, I like the flexi hose, but you need high pressure to make them work. Are they the expanded ones? The ones that shrink down when there's no water pressure behind it? Nicholas says, best way to water hanging baskets is to dunk them, then pull out and rehang. Pull out. That's not a good method sometimes, I'm told. Rob says, I've never washed my car and got it in December. Oh, Rob. I let the immigrants do it for me. Yes, expanding hoses, one at home and one on each plot. I used to have an expanding hose. They were good. I did have to admit, they were good. As I said, I very rarely use a hose these days, although thinking about it with my new water pump, it might be something we look back into to make things easier and quicker. But my preferred method, the method that I've used, let me find it, the method that I've used most of the time is using one of these, the good old-fashioned watering can. Now, I use a watering can a lot. This one in particular is called a rain can because it actually catches rain when it rains. It's designed to catch rainwater when it rains. And I've got quite a few watering cans. They're like, oh, hang on. They we'll come back. You know, I'm sure you all know what a watering can looks like. They are cheap. You can buy them as little as a £5. Some can be a bit more expensive, up to £20 for decent looking ones. They're plastic, which can be a bit of a dirty word, but I do like the watering can. The main reason that I like to use a watering can, however, is purely because just because the main reason I like to use a watering can, sorry, something that made me laugh. The main reason I like a watering can is because I use water butts to catch rainwater. I have 16 water butts in my garden, and I will use rainwater out of that. And using a watering can is slow. I like to use one in both hands so that I can speed it up. It's slow, but it's efficient. It gets the water where it's needed. It's not splurting all over the place where it shouldn't go. On the allotment, as I said, we've got dipping tanks, so watering cans are really the only way to water. But it's not the quickest. It does take time. That is the downside of using a watering can. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of effort involved. If I was to do my allotment properly, water my allotment, it would take 2 hours to do the whole lot. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Turbo Extreme says, I did struggle with watering cans when my fatigue returned in the spring, so I can sympathise with Kate on that one. Yep. Yeah, as I said, it's something I often forget is that I'm fit and healthy, so I can't imagine what it's like to not be able to use a watering can. But yeah, it's the right tool for the right job. That's the word I'm looking for. Kate just burst out laughing. She got my joke. I don't know if anybody else spotted it. I won't repeat it, but Kate got my joke. Looks like a toilet. What, my watering can? I don't know. I'd never seen that, but yeah, I get your point. Yeah. I've never seen a can like that. I don't think they make them anymore. Roxy, pack it in. I don't think they make them anymore, those rain cans. They're good. I've always liked them. I bought two at the time when they were for sale, but one got stolen. I did see somebody making something similar, but I haven't really seen them on the market. I'm after more of those rain cans because they are designed where you can't have a water butt, say in an allotment, where you can't have a shed. They are designed to catch water when it rains. I also like seepage hose, slow release of water compared to a standard hose. We'll get into that a little bit later on, actually. Rob says, like I said last week, I got an automatic watering system for my 20 hanging baskets. So what's your automatic watering system? What does that entail? PP can. I weed while I water. Yep, a few people do that. Never seen a rain can before. It looks brilliant. Who's it made by? It was made by a company called Rain Can. I'm sure they don't sell them anymore. I'm sure they don't make them anymore. They might do. It might be worth looking on Amazon or somewhere like that. But I've had mine. Oh, when I had my first allotment, so could be 15 years now. Could be 15 years ago now, I think. But they are good. They are good. The pulling out joke made me giggle too. I'm glad a couple of people got it. Roxy, you're setting off Rob's dog as well. Not good. Digwell says, from Thames Water, hosepipes can't be used on domestic or non-commercial gardens or plants. The only exemption for newly laid sown lawns and new planting. According to the BBC, and I've read it in other places as well, if you are growing crops in the home garden or an allotment, you can use a hosepipe. I'm not... Thames Water might have different rules. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. As I said, it doesn't really affect me because I don't use a hosepipe that much. But as we've said, there's people out there that do use a hosepipe. And is there exemptions for that? Can you use a hosepipe if you can't carry watering cans very well? I don't know. Scott says, I can water my allotment with the battery pump and hosepipe in a quarter of the time it would take to use a can. That's a lot of time saved. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of how I can do this on my allotment. Now I've got my water pump, which I'm absolutely loving. How can I set up almost like a Bowser type system? A Bowser type system. That's what I would like. Digwell, which they can water for hose for the first 28 days you can. Talking about that thing from Thames Water. Yeah. Stuart says, I'm hoping to try the towel trick for watering when I'm away. Well, a 5 litres bucket be enough for 10 days. Thanks, team. What's the towel trick? Tell us more about the towel trick. Tabestream says, I'm doing my water butts as they were empty. Does anyone use a hose pipe as a siphon between the butts? I had never heard of the method. Siphon between butts. All I do with my water butts, not all of them, because some of them aren't, it's not possible to attach to each other. But all I do with my water butts is when it overfills, when the water butt fills up, it overfills into the next water butt. That's how I do mine. Some people attach them at the bottom so that all the levels rise at the same point. But I use the overflow method. Thumbs up all, says Nicola. Yeah, please do give us a thumbs up. Rob says, it's a timer on a valve worked by my phone and a 13mm hose all around the garden fence with smaller hoses coming off to water the hanging baskets. Okay. So just a timer on some small hose pipe to water the baskets. There we go. Turbo Extreme says, you put a full hose from one butt to the other so the two fill to the same level. Interesting. That's from the bottom, it must be. Margaret says you can use your hosepipe during the ban if you are registered on the priority service. Good to know. So if you're registered on the priority service, you can use a hosepipe. There we go. That answers that question. Use an old towel, says Stuart, put one end in the bucket and the other in the tray under the pots. Oh, so the towel acts as a wick. You put it in water and it wicks the water up through the towel and to the plants. Now, that's actually quite a good method, actually. This is one of the things I wanted to find out more, is what can you do? I've got a wicked method written down. It's not something that I've done that much, although I do have some trays set up as a wicking method outside, actually. So it's something we could look at. But has anyone had any experience of using the wicked method? So my other form of irrigation that I tend to use, and there's quite a few different things to cover this. It comes from a company which you probably know I'm going to say, Autopots. I've talked about them a lot. These are my smaller systems. I've got several of these systems set up now. These are the 15-litre trays. I've got aubergines, tomatoes, chilies, all growing really well. We're getting lots and lots of stout fruit out of them. I've got the larger pots as well, the single pots with tomatoes and cucumbers. These are just your standard pots. We've spoken about these before, but if you don't know, they're basically a system of watering where they've got a valve that floats and allows water into the tray, and the plants soak up the water as and when they need it. But there's different variations of this. So this is in my greenhouse where I spend minimal time now watering because it looks after itself. In my new shed, I've got the trays, which are, this is from the outside. This is my propagation shed. The trays are starting off my seedlings and young plants, and I've got 2 photos of these to give you an idea. The trays just simply fill up and as they go. Good system, really good system. Added to that outside, I've added this one as well, which again, same sort of thing, but it works in any other tray. And again, it just fills and floats as it is required. And then a few weeks ago in my bean bed, we're having a lot of troubles with beans, so this is not looking great, but I've also added this system. Underneath the compost is a piece of material which is wicking water from the thing at the back. Again, this is autopots working quite well for me, and I've had a lot of success with these, I have to say. I'm a big fan of the autopots, as you probably gathered since I've been trialing them, and it works. It just works really well for me. Quite a bit of investment, but I find I check on the water reservoirs about once a week, and that's all it needs. It's really good system, and I just leave and forget about it. Anna Jones says, I think I'm right in saying that wildlife pond owners like me can use a hosepipe during a ban just for filling the pond, though. I believe you can. I believe you can. As I said, I know we used to be able to wash commercial vehicles, unless it's, but I think different companies may have different rules, because I checked with our water company, we can still wash commercial vehicles with a hosepipe if we have a hosepipe ban. We're not in a hosepipe ban at the moment, so different places have different rules. But yeah, hosepipe can be used for filling a pond because something could die at the end of the day. Nicholas says, if it's extremely hot, put the towel from a bucket to the edge of a tray in a bag to stop it evaporating as quickly with the exposed towel. There you go. There's a trick for you. Idaho's joined. Hello, Richard and everyone in the chat. Hello, Idaho. Lovely shed, says Nicola. Thank you. Digwell says to Stuart, SM postcodes will be on a hosepipe ban from the 22nd of July. That's Tuesday. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. That's a shame. Hi, Anna, says Idaho. Digwell says, I use wicking systems, but I fill them from a hosepipe. How long does a 5-litre reservoir last on a How long does a 5-litre bucket last on your wicking system in Digwell? Please tell me more. Nicholas says, this is in your home garden, Richard. The autopots, yes, everything is in my home garden. There's no electricity involved. It's all gravity, but everything there is in my home garden. On the allotment, it's slightly different because I'm always worried things get stolen on the allotment. So I haven't really done much in terms of irrigation that's going to cost money on the allotment. I don't want things getting stolen. The allotment probably does need a bit more irrigation. What I focus more on the allotment, however, is mulch. I'm a big fan of mulching. You hear me say it all the time, mulch, mulch, and more mulching. I find that works better on the allotment because it just tends to keep everything in check and reduces the full amount of watering we can do. In fact, I would actually say, no matter, even in the home garden, if we mulch more, it reduces the amount of watering that we actually have to do. So I am a big fan of mulching. I will say that again, big fan of mulching. Reduces the amount of watering. It reduces the loss of water due to evaporation. Where were we? Nicholas says, we've had a generous amount of rain in Cornwall, so I don't think the hosepipe will come in Cornwall this year. I was looking at our reservoirs, actually. I don't think we're going to get a hosepipe ban this year. It all depends on how much rain we get over the winter. That being said, East Sussex, the next county over, basically, they are having hosepipe bans due to reservoirs being low. But they rely on more, what do you call them? They rely on rivers to top up their reservoir, whereas ours is just underground water reservoir. That's where our water comes from. Turbo Stream says, hopefully now we have had some rain in the mulch will do its job again. Yeah. I mean, mulches work when the ground's already moist. Mulches work when the ground is already wet. So it's always worth. I'm trying now to apply a mulch March time. Just mulch everything March time, and it will do the job. That's my plan. That's my plan. Digwell says about a day for a 5 litre in the quad grows, and chili grows 2 days in the let pot and a quarter a day in auto pots. About a day for 5 litre in the quad grows. Oh, sorry, Digwell. I think when I said 5 litres, I'm talking about Stuart Jackson's homemade attempt of using, what do you call it? I'm losing my words tonight. Using a towel in a 5 litre bucket and then wicking the water from that into a tray with plants on top. How long do you reckon that would last, or have you had any experience of that? Rob says, if there is a hosepipe fan, will that mean I can't water my plants in the attic? Depends. If you use a hosepipe, then yeah. I kind of feel this hosepipe ban can be a little counterproductive because I feel they're punishing the wrong people. Obviously, do we really need to wash the car with a hosepipe when it's the middle of summer? I don't think we do. So probably for that. But when we're watering the garden, particularly crops, I feel the hosepipe is punishing the wrong people because we often have water butts set up. We do the best to conserve water. It's just the those that aren't really fussed about where our water comes from that take it for granted. And I think that's really where the hosepipe ban fails. Again, I'm only thinking out loud, and I could be very, very wrong. There's people who know more about it than me, of course. But my thoughts are the hosepipe ban is the wrong way round. Nicholas says, I have loads of irrigation hoses to set up, just not got round to it. What type of irrigation hoses are we talking about here? Because something, I haven't got a photo of these. Something I do have is these solar-powered irrigation systems, and they basically drip water into a hanging baskets where I'm going to eventually get it set up because I've got hanging baskets again, and we're going to have more of them. I've got this solar-powered drip irrigation that just about every 3 hours that the sun's shining drips water onto these plants. It's a good piece of kit. It's made by Irrigator. I don't think they sell them anymore though, but they are quite good. And this is again what I like because there's no need to run electricity. It's not mains. We just use our water butts. Margaret says, just looked on Southern Water, and from tomorrow they have a ban in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. There we go. Turbo Stream says, we get our water from Mid Wales. They hold 100,000 megalitres, so hopefully we will be okay. You can go online and find out how much water is in your reservoirs at different points. So, yeah. Evening all. Hampshire has a hosepipe ban, but I'm being told it's Southern Water, not East Hampshire, where I am, which is Southeast Water. Southeast Water does have the hosepipe, or parts of it does. It doesn't affect me. Doesn't affect me. I know that much. Is anybody actually already in a hosepipe ban? Let's ask that question. Anybody actually in a hosepipe ban that they are aware of? Digra says all companies are different when it comes to a hosepipe ban. From Thames Water, can I wash your vehicles, use my business using a hosepipe? You can clean your vehicles if it falls under the following. Public service vehicles as defined in blah, 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 in that. By businesses are covered by the ban and a hosepipe can't. All other vehicles used by business are covered by the ban and a hosepipe can't be used to wash them. There we go. Different rules for different things. You've got to remember, hosepipe ban isn't technically a law, is it? It's just rationing, basically, rationing the water. Nicholas says the worst loss of water is pipes that are leaking from their own water pipe systems. Where they're known about. The trouble is, as I've said, or as I discovered last week, where we had a leak on our mains in pipe underneath our driveway, which we didn't know until we dug up the drive. That been leaking for a while, and it's just rusted through. How much more is going on under the ground that we don't know about that is leaking? We don't know. We don't know at all. Nicholas says, I have a seepage and drip, all work off timers, not solar system yet. So seep hoses, they're actually something I did want to get onto. So seep hoses work, they're basically like a hose pipe, but they fill up with pressure and then they just seep and trickle water out. They're pretty good. They slowly water the systems, but they do need, or some, I should say, some do need water pressure there. On my original allotment, I set up a system where I had a water butt right at the very top of the allotment. It was on a slope, and I ran seeping hoses all the way down. I tiered that allotment, and I ran seepage hoses all the way down through that. And I had this little timer that would come on once a day. It worked all the time the water butt was full, but once the water butt got to about half full, it didn't have enough pressure to push through everything and didn't work so well. So seepage hoses can be a good option, as are leaky hoses and things like that, if you are in the right, if you have the right places. It's not always that easy to set them up. Again, you need pressure. So if you're using water mains, you're going to be okay with seepage hoses. If you're not going to use water mains, and this is something I'm trying not to use, I want to use rainwater where I can, you need pressure. Now, an IBC tank is about 1 meter high, would probably give you enough pressure, but that's not always that easy. Water butts, it depends how high, how full they are. It's all about water pressure. Could we put in pumps to make it water pressure? We could, but it gets expensive, and then you need electricity and things as well. Bedo says, don't need a hose pipe here this week. Not stopped raining for 3 days. Water butts are all full. Lucky you. I mean, Bedos, can you send it down our way a bit, which I can't believe I'm saying. Only overnight. We only want it overnight. We won't take it all from you, but overnight, lots of rain, please. Rob says, we are not allowed to use soaker hoses or sprinklers on their allotment. Sprinklers. I haven't actually mentioned sprinklers. There's something that are incredibly wasteful in my eyes, because they just sprinkle water everywhere. They work, they do a good job at watering, but they are not, in my eyes, efficient. Digwell says, we don't use mains water on our plots, but I shudder to watch most tenants watering their plants 5 minutes to start to finish. Poor plants. And this is actually a very, very good point I think we've discussed before. When it comes to watering, it's no good just sprinkling water around. You need that water to really soak into the ground. You need, well, what is it, like a good 3 centimeters of rain to really soak into the ground. So when you're watering, you've really got to get it to soak into the ground. So just rushing around the allotment, this is where, as I said, it would take me 2 hours to do my allotment properly. 5 minutes just sprinkling water is not enough, even with a hose pipe. You've really got to let that water soak into the ground and go deep. Again, I come back to what I've said before, sticking your finger in the ground to see how damp it is makes all the difference. Ian has joined. Lovely to see you yesterday, Ian. Hope you are well. I garden for, let's say, some posh people that think the hosepipe ban does not apply to them and have told me they're going to keep watering the garden. I don't think that's good. We've put in a hosepipe ban has came into place because there's not enough water. And if we abuse it, which sounds crazy, but if we abuse it, we could end up not having enough water that we could go thirsty. We may not have enough to drink. This is why it is so important about these hosepipe bans. They're taken seriously. Stuart says, I really want to put in a leaky hose under the soil when I move my garden around to help in the coming years. It's a good idea. Good idea. Put in proper irrigation. Again, I'm moving my garden around. I'm going for the auto pots that I showed you earlier with the wicking mats to do that as I move my garden around, but not always easy. Digwell says it is law. It is a law. It's £1,000 if caught using a hose pipe. That's a lot of money, isn't it? That's a lot of water, or a huge water bill you could be facing. Ian says, I don't use a hose pipe to water the garden, only a watering can. It's relaxing and I can check on my plants as I water. Again, I'm a big fan of the watering can. Severn Trent are saying levels are 65% full. There you go. Kevin says, I'm in West Yorkshire and we have a hosepipe ban. There you go. It's coming. There's more and more people getting in the hosepipe ban. Nicholas says, is the drive all finished now, Rich? No, because we're having to do our path and the drains at the same time. So we've added another nearly £10,000 of work going on. It's cost us a lot, but it needed doing at the same time. Drains definitely needed doing. Stuart says, I do think they are targeting the wrong people. We have people water their lawn every other day, which seems wasteful. Absolutely. There's no point watering the lawn in a drought, is there? Water tends to... Lawns can tolerate a bit of drought and they will bounce back when it rains. I never water my lawn. If you were that fussed, you would save bath water or something for it. Talking of which, Digwell says water takes ages to weak the aquifers. For example, the water current flowing into the Roman baths in Bath fell on the surrounding hills 40 years ago. As long as that, 40 years. Okay. Never water your lawn. Waste of time and water. Yep. Use bath water for that. I let my dog water it for me, and me too. Digwell says that's why I advise tenants to spot water their veg. Yeah. Spot water your veg. Get it where it really needs. Digwell says in 1976 the drought lasted for 14 months. It just goes to show it can. We don't know what we're going to get over winter. I'm going to set it up that over winter all my water butts are going to catch as much water as they can. I'm hopefully going to get an IBC tank as well to catch another 1,000 litres. That should give us plenty for next year. So I'm thinking ahead for if we get a drought next year. Turbo Stream says, I dug a shallow hole in between my French beans and watered into that. Did the same with my squash plants. I mulched my onions too after I planted them. Now, actually, a shallow hole and watering into that is a very good idea. And like a mini ditch, water into that. That way the water actually gets to where you need it. There's a term for this, isn't there? Swales and hugel culture are meant to be things that use this premise. So swales are basically a ditch on contour, so that as the water runs down and levels out, it creates, as I understand it, it creates like a ditch that soaks the water into the ground. And if you got your plants on that ditch, it's going to soak into it. We can replicate this in our gardens and our allotments, just with a shallow hole and water it all into that so that the water gets into the ground. Nicholas says, if you have boreholes, does the bans apply, Digwell? Good question. Ian says, it's not the first one that said I'm on a meter and still going to use it. I know lots of people that say it. Or people say, I pay for the water, I'm going to use it. It's a bad attitude, in my opinion. Turbo Stream, the West Midlands is officially in the drought. The thing is, and I've said this before, water is a precious resource. We don't need to be in a drought. We need to be smarter about rain catchment. Why? And I'm going to use this as an example. Why does rain fall from the sky, land on our rooftops? It goes down our gutters and down into the sewers, out to sea. Yet we pump perfectly good, fresh drinking water to our houses and use it to flush the toilets. Doesn't make perfect sense. I reckon we should be setting up systems, and certainly with new build houses, where rainwater and a lot of rainwater is captured and used for flushing of the toilets and things like that. In my opinion, I think that would be better. No, bore owners are not affected by the ban, says Digwell. All the crowns have gone. There we go. Ian says, don't feed and weed your lawns, as so many are wildflowers, which will still keep going in the hot weather. I have some lawns I cut that are not fed and survive the drought way better than the fed ones. There we go. So yeah, don't water the lawns. Don't water the lawns. You beat me to it. Richard ran out of points to give away. Have all the crowns gone? I don't know. I can't see anything here. Stuart says, I've put a couple of bottles sunk into the garden to help water the roots. Now, this actually brings up another photo that I want to share with you. So this is an olla pot. I've only got the one. I want more of these. I've placed this in my pot. As you can see, there's a lot of lush growth around it. My nasturtiums and tomatoes are growing in this, and it is working. All I do is I fill up that pot with water. The water then slowly trickles out of that, or seeps out of that other pot and into the ground around it. It does need to be a bit deeper. We'll march on that, but it works. That bed is honestly one of the most luscious growth beds that I've got. It was set up before, but I mean, you can see the nasturtiums. I know there's some caterpillars on there. The nasturtiums are doing exactly what they are there for, keeping the caterpillars off my brassicas. But this other pot has been a real good success. It's only a small thing, but it works really, really, really well. I need more. I need to get more of these because it just works. OLLA, if anybody is interested. It's actually an ancient method of watering. It dates back to Egyptian times, I believe, but I could be wrong on that. And yeah, it's such a simple idea. You can make your own. You can make your own using things like a terracotta pot and just sink that into the ground, but you just got to remember to seal up the bottom. But they are so good for the garden. I've got to say, I actually will say this, they have been the best thing I've added to the garden. Digwell says, report the band breakers. They will soon stop as the fines mount up to £1,000, up to the £1,000 max. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Well, I don't like being a snitch, but yeah, I'm with you. Nicholas says, when I was in Brighton, I used bath water to water due to the meter. Yeah, it's a bit of a palaver, isn't it, using bath water to water your garden? I'm trying to think. I tend to have my baths at night, and I know that's not something you want to hear about, but I'm trying to think of a way that I could. I mean, I've got my pump, so I could easily pump water out my bath and into the garden, or I could attach it to the water butt to the downpipe. But yeah, we could easily do that. We could easily capture wet bath water and water using that. Not great if you've got some of the blueberry plants or cranberries or plants that really need rainwater, but it is an option. Nicholas says, I put 2-litre bottles in for watering in buckets. I put 2 litres bottles in water for watering in buckets. What do you mean by that, Nicola? I'm a little bit lost. Yes, all crowns have gone. Thank you. And Rob says, I like the caterpillars. There we go. There we go. Dick says, one of my jobs at Thames Water was to pump water from disused boreholes, even if sour. There is a law that if not used for 7 years, it can be claimed by someone else. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know much about boreholes, I'll be honest with you. Can I get a borehole in my garden? That's a question. Is a borehole like a well? And could I put one in my garden? You can get other pots which connects to hose pipes. Interesting. Interesting. A lot of ideas with the hose pipes. Digworth says, and we were worried that Virgin Water was coming in and he would take all the supply, Honda, Motorola, etc. in Swindon. There we go. There we go. Digworth says, siphon the bath water to a tank. Yep. I'm trying to think of a way I could do that. I want to keep it separate from my rainwater. That's the thing. Things must be hard. Judah's just brought me a jam sandwich. Just add vinegar for blueberries. Yeah, that's one way around it. Crowns, I thought you said all the clowns are gone. Nicola, I think all new builds by law should have solar panels and grey water / rainwater harvesting. Agree. I do agree. Again, I come back to why do we use perfectly good fresh water? We could use bath water for flushing the toilet, couldn't we? Anna Jones says, I've seen terracotta spikes that work in the same way. Not cheap though. You can add an upturned wine bottle in the top to add more water. Yeah, terracotta spikes are similar. They're similar to the olive pots. They just may not be as big, but I don't know. They may be easier to insert. But the other pots, I got a small one. I wish I got more of them because they've proven themselves to be so good. Rebecca says, just looking into water companies, didn't realise 3 billion litres per day is lost through leaks across England and Wales. That is insane. Yeah. Yeah. This is the trouble. 3 billion litres. And they're worried about us with the hose pipes. Now, don't get me wrong. It's difficult to fix leaks in the roads, as I'm sure everybody can appreciate. And if you don't know where the leaks are, it's hard to track them down. There needs to be a better way of sorting water out. But there's nothing, us as a people, there's nothing we can do about these water companies and their leaks. We just, as gardeners, I think we should be setting the example. We catch as much rainwater as possible. We reduce the loss of rainwater or reduce the loss of water through things like mulching, and we're efficient with our irrigation. So I'm coming back, bringing it back to irrigation. As we've said, hosepipe seems like the popular thing to use, and we're looking now at using these water pumps that we have to use a hosepipe on irrigating our garden. But can we do that if we're in a hosepipe ban? Can we use a hosepipe if it's attached to rainwater or to a water butt? Could we still use a hosepipe? Will you get investigated is the other question on that. Digwell says some new builds that have a downstairs loo have a grey water storage tank fed from the upstairs bathroom to flush it. It should be all new builds, shouldn't it? Into the foundations, into something in the garden, there should be a way that they collect grey water to use in the brown water, or because I think you could use grey water and rainwater for washing your clothes as well, as long as it's filtered, of course. 2 litre pop bottles, cut bottom, buried partly in the soil, bamboo caton to keep them in position, and then have a flower pot on top to stop frogs, etc. from hopping in. There you go. That's an idea, isn't it? That is an idea. I don't think it's a problem. I'd like to see frogs in these sort of things, as long as they eat the slugs and snails as well. I'd like to see more of those things. Stuart says, hanging baskets or pots, you could always put old rags in the bottom to help hold on to the water. I use wool. I use wool to line my hanging baskets, and I'm finding that's actually doing really well at holding on to water. So, yeah, similar sort of thing. Rebecca says, I think council should give out free water butts to people that want them, as I find them quite expensive. Water butts are expensive. Brand new water butts can be expensive. I've got most of mine from people giving it away on Facebook Marketplace for free. I've got given by friends, or I brought them quite cheap on from Facebook Marketplace or secondhand, or when garden centres have had a sale on as well. I've got some very, very cheap water butts, £5 each in some cases. From garden centres when they basically get rid of their stock. So there are cheap ways of getting them, but if you want the good looking ones, and this is something that is bothering me a lot at the moment, we want good looking water butts. The plastic just doesn't look very good in the garden. They are very, very expensive. Stuart says, like, share, subscribe, etc. Please. Yes, if you are enjoying this, please do give us a like. Please do give us a thumbs up. Please do give us a follow. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the notification so you know when we go live. Nicola says they can get trapped in 2 litre bottles and get trapped. Yeah, frogs can. I'm just thinking if it's open-ended, though, they can then make their own way out as well. Digwell says, not all main leaks are regarded as equal. If you are in a place where water is extracted from boreholes, then the leak just goes back to the aquifer eventually. The only loss is from the chemical treatment. Yeah. Actually, that's something I was thinking of as well. You know, I believe water gets recycled all the time. And the water we're drinking now is the same as when dinosaurs were alive, sort of thing. So we're drinking dinosaur pee sometimes. Stuart says, look out for supermarkets for water butts as they start reduced in the gardening stuff. They have started already. Doesn't surprise me. I think water butts, though, are going to be a top product this year because people are after them. Digwell says, check your water butt to Rebecca. Water board website. They often have heavily subsidised. Now, Margaret, when I lived on the farm, all our water came from a borehole, and it still does. A farm, I know. Where fresh spring water is found on private land, you can have a borehole dug and not pay for any water. I need a spring in my garden then. I want a spring in my garden. What about digging for a well? What about digging for a well? Is that possible to do in a garden? Rob says, many years ago, my dad cut up an old bed mattress and popped it in his bean trench. What did that do? What did the bed mattress do in his bean trench? Can get wooden barrels for about £40. They're good. That's a good price as well, aren't they? Rebecca says, thank you, Digwell, worth a look. And it says, most local councils sell water butts and compost bins very cheaply. Yeah. Has anybody got... I've just asked... Oh, Nicholas just sort of said her mum, old cottage, had a well. Does anybody have a well or borehole in their garden that they use? I think Digwell's allotment has one, or I could be wrong on that. But does anybody have one in their garden that they use? And how well does it work? Is it easy to use? As we said last week, 90% of all water on Earth is from comets, etc. Dinosaur pee tastes great. And Whoops holds the water. Cheers to dinosaur pee. It tastes good with some blackcurrant added to it. No cheap water butts on Severn Trent this year. I rescued one off the sharing shack that leaked, put some bitumen on the seam, and it's okay now. Yeah, even leaking water butts can be repaired with a bit of bitumen or a bit of clever thinking going on. Digwell says, our site has a lake fed from the hills. I knew there was something going on. I knew there was something. It wasn't mains, as I recall. And then Nicola, Dalek compost bins are often on Facebook Marketplace for free or very cheap. I hate Dalek compost bins. I'm going to have a rant about that in a moment. Hey Up, the crowns are coming back. I can't see them here, so I've got nothing to do. By the way, guys, so last week's mission was to pray for rain. I haven't made a video for that. I'm absolutely rushed off my feet at the moment with the driveway. But if you do have a mission for next week, please do hit it up with the hashtag mission down below. In the comment spot, hashtag mission in the comments, and it goes into our draw. I haven't made a video of the cook along either because I haven't done that. The driveway and everything going on has really taken it out of me. My garden looks like Steptoe's yard at the moment because I've got so much stuff everywhere. Hopefully we'll be making progress over this week or two. Anyway, where was I going with that? This week the mission was, however, to pray for rain. Now, I'm not a religious person in the slightest. I don't get offended by religion, but I'm not religious in the slightest. But what I did, I just sat there saying, we need rain, please rain. And guess what? This weekend we have had rain. So it worked. We prayed for rain. It worked. So please do hit us with hashtag mission for a mission and hashtag cook along for a cook along. Now, the cook along was set 2 weeks ago, was this Japanese milk bread. As I said, I just haven't got around to doing it. I will do it. I've got all of the ingredients and stuff. I'm just struggling for time at the moment. There we go. Where have we got? Digwell says, I bet part of that blackcurrant squash has been through me. How do you stop people from drinking water? You tell them the facts. Ban the clown, says Turbo Stream. Nicholas says, more composting soil holds water better. This is actually more organic matter, we should say. Excuse me, more organic matter holds soil better. That is a very good point. Very, very good point. More organic matter in the soil will hold water better. And the same with our pots. And this comes back to mulching, etc., etc. more we add, the better it gets. Southern Trent only have so many every year sold out now. Worth checking out, worth keeping an eye. Idaho says, I have a deep well. I think you'd call it a borehole. It's 300, I think that's foot deep. It provides household water, drinking water, garden irrigation. My agriculture pasture is watered from winter snow melt system. What's a winter snow melt system? Was this what fills up your well? And do you ever run out of water in your well? Does it work? And do you have filters and stuff as well? Idaho. I'm interested in this. Digwell says, exactum mondo to Nicola, and all the guys on our site are suffering, have never even seen a barrow load of muck. Unbelievable. Moan. Yeah. As I've said time and time again, the more organic matter in the soil and the mulch, let's not forget the beauty of the mulch, reduces the amount of water loss from the soil. Soil is really where we need all this water. It's no good running around with a hosepipe or watering cans if the soil's not going to absorb it and suck it up like a sponge. We need the soil to hold on to it. But it says, save water, drink wine. Don't mind if I do. Nicholas says, Digwell, I went to pick up a gate from a guy who relied on a chemical. Wouldn't listen to no dig, and his soil was a dust bath. Soil looked dead, no weeds either. Yeah. See, I've always said this. If a garden has no weeds growing in it, and nothing growing in it, then it's dead. It needs life. Turbo says, don't drop your keys down that hole. And Greg says, do you think hugelkultur beds will have an advantage in drought periods? So I've got a hugelkultur on the allotment that I'm testing with. I've been growing potatoes in it, my first early potatoes, actually doing quite well. So for those that don't know what hugelkultur is, it's going to be, I'll give it, basically what you do is you take a log, you bury half of it in the soil, and then you cover that log over with soil. Now, what happens is that log absorbs water. It becomes like a sponge. And then when you plant into that soil, the plants can then access that water. It's actually there's a lot of good things about hugelkultur. A lot of people are singing its praises. It's quite a good method. What you got to be careful, not likely to happen. There was a place in America somewhere where they got permission to put up these hugelkultur. I think it was in a church graveyard or somewhere like that, churchyard. Put these hugelkultur method into action to grow some nice plants. And they basically took some giant redwoods, put that on the ground, as I said, and then covered that over and had it growing lovely. And then a flash flood came along, and those logs basically went through some shops because they were so big. They were basically tree trunks. They were so big, so that we're not likely to do it on that sort of scale. But it's something to think about. But hugelkultur could play a good part, I think. We need to experiment a bit more to really work out if it's worth doing. But I think it is. Nicholas says mulch breaks down and becomes a feed to the soil. Yep, this is why we mulch. I do say my biggest rule with gardening, mulching is as important as watering and feeding, if not more important. Turbo Stream says, I do think all the organic matter I've put on my plot helped this year. Only a few cracks compared to previous years. Yep. Again, I totally agree with you. I'm adding organic matter all the time. They say, says Digwell, if you could colour every atom of water in a pint glass red and poured it in an ocean, then in 100 years, every pint of water in the world would have one red atom in it. There you go. It's interesting, isn't it? It's red interesting. Idaho says winter snowmelt flows down from the mountains into man-made reservoirs. Water begins to be released in April. It flows from the reservoir through the canal system, takes a couple of weeks to reach me. I've seen this on Instagram. They're like, seeing these sort of ditches alongside roads, and people have got like, I can't think what they're called, these sort of barriers that they raise up when they're allowed to take water for their land. I can't think what it's called though. I've seen them. And that's where it comes from, the winter snowmelt. I've learned something today. Scott says, I would change the cook along to a strawberry and black pepper sandwich made with sliced white and good butter. Same sort of thing as a sando kind. Hashtag cook along. It needs to be hashtag cook along. I can see no entries for either at the moment. Nicholas says, I've done similar in my new raised bed, Richard. Use wood chip and straw at the bottom of the beds. Yeah. Yeah, again, it's that organic matter acting as a sponge. There is some people that think that, I don't know if it's so much with wood chip, or I think it's probably more with wood chip, but as the wood breaks down, it's meant to steal nitrogen from the soil. I don't know how true that is. I'm no scientist, but some people do warn of that. And I don't know. I don't know on that, but I've used hugelkultur, just using logs. Eventually, those logs will rot down, but that's organic matter in the soil again. Digwer says, I can't even say hugelkultur. 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 That's how I pronounce it anyway. I'm still going for an egg on toast on hashtag cook along. Hashtag cook along. Idaho says it's all gravity fed, so if everyone is watering at once, less water is available. We all have to share. Sluice gate is the word I was looking for. Sluice gate, yes, I think sluice gate is the word. Jam sandwich for cook along. Hashtag cook along. Hashtag cook along. Idaho says, my deep well has an electric pump. When I turn the tap on, I hear the pump kick on. Interesting. I really like the idea of living off a well, though, I've got to say. We have a cook along. We have a hashtag cook along. We have a hashtag mission. Make a homemade watering system, egg on toast with a difference. Though that's all you got to do to get your entry in. Hashtag cook along, hashtag mission. Turbo Stream says, dig well if you win. Egg on toast with a difference. I wonder what I could do different. I like the idea, though. There we go. There we go. Just have a quick look. Oh, I haven't checked on Instagram. Sorry, everybody on Instagram. God, loads of people have joined and I haven't seen it. And Jamie's little allotment said evening. Sorry, everybody on Instagram. I kept forgetting. There we go. Greg says, at home I am. You're on a well at home, are you, Greg? Is that what you're saying? Nicola, I don't think it steals if below soil and compost. I think it's more if not broken down in soil. I use a badly broken down green waste too. I don't know. It's just what people say. I don't know how true it is. It's just something to consider, isn't it? Something we've got to think about. And you weigh up, do your own research, weigh up your own risks and see if it's right for you. Idaho says, as for sharing the irrigation, this is why it's important to have irrigation rights. When you buy a property, it's important to know if you have irrigation rights. If you don't, you don't. There we go. Interesting. Turbo Stream says, cook along, do something interesting with courgettes. Okay, another cook along there. Greg says, I'm using a cheap solar-powered irrigation system. Excellent. And Digwell says, if you watch enough John Wayne movies, you would not want a well. Yeehaw. Not want a well. I haven't watched many John Wayne movies. I can't think of a single one I've watched, in all honesty. So tell me more. What am I missing out on that? Right. Let's get back to irrigation. Or do we do the rant? No. Let's go back. Let's think about irrigation. Has anybody got any systems in place? Because we've talked about hosepipe, watering cans, the auto pots, the Ola system, which as I said, I'm a big fan of. All of these. Has anybody got anything they want to throw in? As well. Rebecca said, hashtag courgette brownies. You need to do hashtag cook along and then remember what your recipe is, because it all goes into a drawer just to make things easier for me. Greg says, at home I'm using the cheap solar-powered irrigation dripper system on pots. Working really well so far. I'm only using this on my chilies at the allotment from next week. There we go. I'm a big fan. Big fan of irrigation dripper systems. I've got some, and I used to have one in my greenhouse, but I haven't set it up for a while. But any other methods? Any other methods? Plenty on my channel, nudge, nudge. Nicholas says, all dead bodies down the well. Oh, is that what it is? Hashtag cook along egg on toast with warm courgette baba ganoush. Baba ganoush, baba ganoush. Digwell, Heaven Rustlers. Hargrave Gas, hashtag cook along courgettes would be great. I have so many. There we go. Just remember what your suggestion is going to be. We run into a situation where somebody didn't remember before. I can never remember what they are. Idaho, the well could go dry if too many wells are dug and people are pumping, but a person has to get a permit and register a new well. A new well won't be granted if not enough water. Interesting. Hashtag cook along courgette brownies. And Andrew Norris has joined. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. We're talking about irrigation. How, Andrew, you have quite a large amount of land. How do you irrigate all the land that you have? Let us know. Hargrave, I have a dripper system based around Hoselock aquapods. Not made anymore, so I buy second-hand off eBay. In fact, Hoselock aquapods, were those like the Hoselock pumps in a system? Oh, how did they work? I think that might be a better way. Tell me more about the aquapods and how they would work. What is better, autopots or quad grows? I cannot say. I use autopots. I feel they've got much more. I don't know much about quad grows, but autopots for me have got a large amount of options that work for me. Plus, if you use my discount code when buying, where's my discount code now? Or you use my discount code from Autopot, you get 10% off, and I get 10% after that. So Auto 10 RVG from Autopots. I'll go back to that, can't I? Auto 10 RVG. But nobody is monitoring how much water I am pumping, says Idaho. When you buy a property on a well, the gallons per minute are tested. Interesting. Hashtag cook along courgette brownies. Does your well run dry, Idaho, and do you have to pay for it? Andrew says, I have a drop-by-drop system linked to our motor pump for when I'm not in a village. Otherwise, I water by hand from a 1,000-litre tank of rainwater. What's a drop-by-drop system? Please share a bit more details on this. And motor pump. Sounds interesting. Beddoes, not sure this is a good time to mention this, but my new hosepipe has just arrived from China. Honestly, if you've got a new hosepipe, you want new adapters, go for the quick hose, because I'm a hose goes on there, and that clamps around the hose, and that tightens up on it. Your hose isn't popping off. Highly recommended those. I'm a big fan. I've said it time and time again. Quick hose all the way. Hargrave Gas says aquapods don't need power. They just restrict water pressure and send out to individual drippers. They're great in the greenhouse when I'm away. Just use a standard timer. Okay. So are they mains powered? Do you mains water, that is, or can you use rainwater in them? Do they have a tank or anything like that? I know. It says if my if my well runs dry, I do have a well driller come and drill it deeper. Yes, it is very expensive, and I would have to bear the cost myself. Okay. Digger says, in my honest opinion, quad grow. No need for a separate tank, hose, or valve. Seals maintenance every year, but I do like both. There we go. Digger's opinion. He's got both of them. I've only got autopots, so different things for different people. Stuart says, I've got all my pots in trays, so hopefully this helps with regular water. Even more important when I'm away, so my son can't get it wrong. In fact, this is actually something I haven't touched upon. At the moment, all my pots are in trays to hold on to water for a little bit longer. it works. It helps, doesn't it? It does help. Just hold on to that water at the base of the plants and soak up through the soil. So yeah. Nicola, I bought myself a self-rewind hose this week, 30 meters. So much easier to store away after use. That's the thing I hate about hose pipes, packing them away afterwards. But that's ODD for you. Interesting how it differs to the UK. Only one time I've ever had to drill. Idaho's only ever had to have a drill well re-drilled. She tries not to waste water. Good. Hargrave says, no tank. I think you need mains pressure, but haven't tried for my water pump. Maybe we'll try that at some point. Interesting. Over on Instagram, Nancy Bowden has joined and the Messy Allotment Tier has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Andrew says, my system consists of 10 pipes attached to a wider pipe at 90 degrees. Along the length of these 10 pipes are holes about 1 foot apart. I plant seeds just where the holes are to focus the drops to just where the plants are. Okay, so and then this water pump kicks in and pushes water out. So it's like a drip irrigation sort of thing. Excellent. These are the things we want to think about. And the thing is, one of the things that I want to sort of end on tonight, for me, irrigation is important. But I want to try and make irrigation all the easier for me to do. I don't want to go out watering my garden every day or even every couple of days if I can help it. I want it to be easier so that we can then almost automate it so that I can spend more time with my plants. Does that make sense? I want my irrigation to almost be automated. Turbo Stu says, for my seedlings, I use mats under the cell trays if that counts as irrigation. It does count as irrigation. So you're talking about sort of what they call wicking mats, like a mat that almost like a sponge soaks up water. They sit under the trays then suck up water, and from that mat it does work. Rob says, newsflash, he's got thunder. Is there lightning as well for the flash? The pump uses in a timer, says Andrew. The pump is on a timer. There we go. The pump is on a timer. And Nicholas says, I've reservoirs in the bottom in all my bottom of my large planters as I fill them with French drainage plastic in the bottom of smaller containers and sit containers on those and grow bag trays. So yeah, one of the things like the what would you call it, veggie pod that we spoke about last week, you get a wicking system, and I've done this on the allotment in my greenhouse as well with a big pot. Basically, what we spoke about the veggie pods last week. Instead of water coming out the bottom, the water overflow is on the side, about a couple of centimeters, or 5 centimeters from the bottom. And what that does, if you fill up the bottom with something like perlite, that base of that water becomes like a well, and then all the compost will wick up water from that well, and your plants absorb water from that. Really good system, I've got to say. I've used it on my greenhouse on the allotment. It works better for me. So this sort of wicking system with compost, like Nicola was talking about as well, works good because it holds onto water, really well, and it's efficient. Rob says, I use quad grows and chili grows. Not heard of chili grows. I've heard of quad grows, but not chili grows. Digwell says, Richard, do keep a watchful eye on the water pots. How do you take a dirty valve seal or a stuck float to drain the reservoir? I've had that twice, but I do check mine daily anyway. Yeah, I keep an eye on mine quite regularly. I keep them clean. But yeah, it is something to think about. But I say I only check on mine every week. I mean, I check the reservoir more. I check on my plants every day, as you would. But yeah, also you do have to keep it. It's maintenance at the end of the day, isn't it? No lightning yet. Scott has come up with a mission: eat 3 meals a day for a few days to find out what you've picked from your allotment to allow yourself a small section of store cupboards items, i.e. dried items, and document it. Oh, That might be tricky when I'm at work, but we'll think of something for that. We'll see what happens, of course. So, first of all, let's have a look. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to where were we? To go through all your photos. Oh, hang on, I'm meant to be in this bit. I haven't had time to go through your photos today, but we have had. Let's have a look at the photos that are in the group. And this one from Kate, a load of compost. Is this from the visit that you made to this garden today? That looks good compost, though. Looks very good compost. We'll ignore that. Oh yeah, here we go. Kate's lovely morning at Wall Leader Gardens. Look at all those. Compost and everything else going on. Nathan, quick harvest today in between the downpours. Courgettes, French beans, marrow, tomatoes, potatoes. Fantastic. What have we got? Dean was asking about cutting cam salads on the kitchen windowsill. Oh, what compost and flies. Another photo from Nathan there about potatoes. Fantastic. JBA Blight Guard. Was that this week? Yeah. JBA Blight Guard. Blight warnings all over the place. There we go. Climate report from Andy there. Another photo or advert about potato blight. Another one from Kate here. BBC Nottingham. The English driest start to the year since 1976. Interesting. Nicola's progressing on her allotment, her garden, sorry. Lots of pallet collars going on. Looking great. And Nathan's few heirlooms popping up. And Steve Digwell said a pro gardening trip. Treat everything as a weed until someone shouts, "What the hell have you done?" I want to look at this courgette cake from Kate. Fantastic. Only 102. I shared that one last week, didn't I? Yeah, 102 in the greenhouse. There we go. So that is the photos for this week. Not the best way of doing it. Just something we'll work on. We'll do better next week, is what I'm saying. Last couple of weeks have just been a bit of a mess. Everything's just crazy at the moment. Idaho says that is quite a challenge. Chili grows small litre pots for compost. Stuart says it's been another great live show. Time has gone so quick. It has. Chili grows are smaller with 3 pots on them. I'll have to check those out. Digwell, hose lock grow bags water are basically a big tray is great. No need to water the grow bags, hence no splashing up of pathogens, etc. And Digwell's mission is to strip and clean an auto pot valve. So talking of the mission, let's have a look. Let's have a look at what mission we could be doing next week. Now, let's just see if that's came up. It has. So we got 3 entries that I can see. Let's hit draw and see who wins. Remember your mission, because I'm not going to remember what you guys said. The winner is Stuart Jackson, which, if I remember correctly, was set up a home watering, build my own. Oh, remind me, Stuart, what it was, because I can't remember. I can only share one screen at a time now, so that's kind of inconvenient. Where were we? Nicholas says, I don't mind photos, just scrolled through. It's just time, isn't it, at the moment? Chili grows have smaller pots and a smaller reservoir. I'll have to check them out. Nicola, where's the time gone this week again? Indeed. But let's do the roll for the cook-along as well. Which one is it? There we go. Cook-along. Let's just check it's came up. I can see there are 6 entries for the cook-along. So let's carry the drawer out and see what comes up. Hope you remember what your suggestion was, because I cannot remember what everyone's was. And the winner is Rebecca's. which I do kind of have a vague inkling. It was, remind me what it was. Remind me what it was. I think it was the courgette thingies. I can't remember. I cannot remember. Jamie's joined. Hey, Rich was in IG, but you ignored me. I forgot about IG because I haven't set it up quite in the same way at the moment. So apologies for that. I did say hello after you had obviously already gone. Courgette brownies for next week and the homemade watering system. So the topic for next week, I've got 3 ideas of what we should talk about for next week. First one is composting, which I think is a subject we've done in the past, but it's always a subject I think we should revisit. Another subject that I had an idea of talking about next week, hoarding. I'm a terrible hoarder, and I've been clearing out my shed. I've been clearing out lots of things. I'm getting frustrated with myself as well. Why? And you'll see it behind me as well. There's lots of things on this that, okay, this is slightly different because this is all set up for the show. But I seem to have a lot of things that I think I'm going to use I never use. So hoarding is the next topic. What do you guys, and I'll have to quick count, put in a compost or hoarding? What do you want to talk about next week? There was another subject, but I can't think what it was now. Digler says, but do the valve anyway, as it's about time, mid-season. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I keep an eye on them. I do clean them quite regularly. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah. Jamie says, my garage is dreadful. There we go. Turbo Stream says hoarding. Nicholas says hoarding. Digler says hoarding. Hoarding and the good uses of the stuff you've kept. There we go. I'm a plant hoarder. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm a plant hoarder. So this is actually good. Hoarding. Okay, so hoarding seems like the popular one. We're going to be discussing hoarding next week, and how can we try and deal with it? Hoarding, but also the best way to dispose of your stuff ethically. Lovely show again. Thanks, Richard. There we go. I love the way that I've just thrown this sort of topic, one word out, hoarding, and you came up with all the ideas to make it into a show. I am a hoarder. Yeah, me too. Nicholas, since I moved to the farm, I have many buildings with useful stuff. This is exactly what hoarding is about, isn't it? You keep hold of stuff that you think is going to be useful. Must go. Hopefully see you next week, but I am away, so I may need to do a catch-up. Hoarding, another one for hoarding. It looks like we're going to be discussing hoarding next week. I am a money hoarder, says Rob. He's stingy, yeah, in other words. No, I think hoarding seems to be very popular for next week. I wonder if there's a link between gardeners and hoarding. That's a good idea, good thought, actually. Especially you have an allotment, because allotment, you tend to build things, so you hold on to stuff that might be useful as well. Lots of thoughts there. Nigel, great show. Richard, thanks. It is, what is the time? Oh, yeah, we've got under a minute, so I think it's time to start packing up and saying goodbye. I didn't get the ranting, but I think my rant was going to be about the hosepipe ban and why I think it's the wrong way round, because gardeners tend to be pretty good. So I think we got the rant in anyway, just not as well as I thought. Anyway, thank you so much as always. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Please do come again next Sunday at 6 p.m. We're going to be discussing hoarding and all the things that we can do with that, or make that into a topic, the question that we can discuss about. If you have any photos of your sheds full of junk, we won't judge. You know, we're always good here. Would love to see them. Would love to see them to make the conversation for next week. We'd love more of that sort of stuff. I really want to get you guys interacting a bit more and sharing your stuff. So if you've got any photos or even videos of hoarding going on, please do share it with us next Sunday at 6. Right, guys. Everyone's saying, Idaho's saying, You don't want to run out of stuff, and etc. etc. Yeah, you don't want to run it. And Jamie's agreeing, no way. This has been a great laugh. Great show, laugh. Catch you all next week. All of them. Yeah. Right, guys, this has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you as always. We will be back again next Sunday at 6 p.m. where we will discuss about hoarding. Right, guys, take care. See you there.